Okay, as we promised today, we're going to start our show with an important discussion related to workplaces and how the young are seemingly fitting in. How are dynamics being created for them? Over the years, the dynamics of workplace culture in India, especially in tech hubs, so we're talking about Hyderabad, Bangalore, they've undergone a seemingly radical transformation. Gone are the days when employees were content with the idea of a traditional starting at 9, ending at 5. Today's workforce, particularly millennials, Gen Z, they're demanding not just a paycheck, but also, and we've talked about this before on the show, a sense of purpose that needs to come with the work, a sense of flexibility. So, for example, being able to work at home and larger support in the company. Reports are revealing that companies are going above and beyond to attract and retain this kind of emerging talent pool. There are, and what are these kind of above and beyond benefits that companies are offering? Tailored benefits, unlimited sick leave, for one example, stipends for well-being, mental health days and live music, journaling days, other facilities like that are very, very slowly becoming the norm in cities across the country. Firms are now customizing workspaces. They're encouraging hybrid roles and supporting mental health, not as an afterthought, mental health hum karenge, but instead as a keen business strategy.
Yeah, and not something that people frown upon anymore, but integrating it and changing systems to incorporate it. Now, interestingly, a recent India Technology Industry Compensation Benchmarking Survey by Deloitte India and NASSCOM highlighted that over 200 tech companies nationwide have begun implementing such policies to align with the evolving expectations of Gen Z and millennials. Now, these aren't just perks, they are strategic initiatives aimed at enhancing productivity and preventing burnout, also trying to stop attrition, a major issue that everybody seems to be facing at the moment. But how sustainable are these benefits? What is the line between burnout, pure laziness, or lack of motivation at workplace? Can they truly reshape the future of work, create the ultimate balance between life and labor? Or is this something that a very senior leadership, not belonging to this generation, will still have resistance towards? To discuss this, we are joined by some two fascinating guests. One that represents the change makers and one are the change creators as well. First, we have Ujala Sabharwal with us, Senior Director of HR at HealthEdge India, who brings in a wealth of experience on people management as well. So lovely to have you on the program, and we'll try and dig in and understand कि क्या changes हैं जो आ रहे हैं. And then we also have with us, let me quickly,
our second guest.
So
Jayant.
Jayant Murali is also with us. Now, Jayant is a Gen AI consultant at MathCo, and he is a true blood millennial Gen Z, and really want to understand from him on how these changes are being asked for at work. So let's give you the first voice, then Jayant. Jayant, you work for MathCo, right? So when you were looking for this job, did you upfront go and say that these are the perks that I want an organization which is purpose-driven and I want work-life balance? Is that something that people are openly asking for in interviews now?
So with my personal case, I would say I did not go with a set of demands with respect to what I wanted, but my decision to join the organization was definitely steered by these, perks that they had. So every individual comes with their own set of, working habits, discipline, and hygiene. So you want to go, you want to take a decision with an organization that's kind of, adapts to, which kind of resonates with the kind of work culture you have. So that was one of these decisions. But in general, the trend has definitely increased towards providing more such very customized and innovative perks that resonate with, individual behaviors and preferences.
I see.
Very interesting. Ujala, can we come to you? Before we talk a little bit about the study and the trends, first tell us a little bit more about the landscape. So I want to tell our audiences, innovative companies have always existed around the world. There's a fun example, there's Patagonia in the US, where the CEO himself would take off for 4 months to go surfing, and he would encourage that culture in his employees. You have other companies like Google that have always talked about creating workplace policies that are friendly. In India, just give us a look at the topography as it is right now. Are there companies that already have ethical policies towards their employees, Gen Z, not Gen Z?
So there are policies which are actually crafted towards Gen Zs too, because we have found that there is a change in the trend. There are evolving preferences that Gen Zs are coming with, even when they're interviewing with us. There are questions which are asked about our total reward strategy. What are our wellness benefits? What about the work-life balance? And how we as companies are responding to these expectations is very, very important. And there is a dire need for us to actually evolve our policies to combat all of this and be able to hire and retain the Gen Z talent. There is a lot of prioritization on career development, and mentorship programs over compensation alone, because compensation is not the only, what do you call the
only
attraction
factor.
point for these Gen Z population. There's a high need and demand for well-being support that Gen Zs are expecting, and companies are prioritizing all of these in addition to obviously offering upskilling opportunities, professional development opportunities, which are more attractive to this part of population and group. Yes.
Right. So, there's a shift in this conversation now. And there's a reason why Deloitte report is so interesting, because earlier we kept talking about how Gen Z is a disgruntled sort of a generation because they don't feel the companies understand their demands. But now for Deloitte to come out and say that, hold on, companies are taking note. So interesting for us to watch out, is that space really changing? Which is what brings me, Jayant, to the question that what is today the key thing that Gen Z millennials look for in a workplace? In order of priority, if you could list out the top 3 for me.
Sure. So, although we say that people look for things other than compensation, I would say compensation would be one of the major factors. But again, Gen Zs are a more purpose-driven, have a more purpose-driven mindset. So one thing would be to have a little more flexibility in terms of the way you want to work, being able to give you flexible. The second point would be having an option to have work from home days, mental health days, like some time to recuperate and get back to work. The third would definitely be social, like the work, the initiatives and the employee engagement stuff that happens within the organization. So that I think is very important to make the Gen Zs retain their interest in the organization where they're headed, and also look for growth themselves.
I see. So you see how he's saying that alignment of personal philosophy with the company. So it's so important where they work, in compensation in the top 3, but not the first, which is interesting.
Should I take this to a slightly maybe radical place? Ujala, can we ask you, there's a discussion taking place around the world. If what we're looking at, this discussion we're having right now, is actually Band-Aids. Band-Aids to fix a sort of deeper awakening that started during COVID and is continuing. An awakening where, people are questioning the entire structure altogether. Ujala, if we could have your thought on that. Is there actually maybe a more radical change that is incoming, where these are just conversations where we're walking around, around the hole but not wanting to look in?
So what I believe is, all these changes, I'm sorry, while companies are, some of the companies have implemented it, they've gone big bang and implemented these changes, while some companies are still in a very nascent stage where they're in that wait and see sort of a mode. But what I feel is that now companies basically understand that flexibility and work-life balance and prioritizing these is a business priority rather than just a perk. This is the way of life. And hybrid work models and work-life balance are designed to basically foster more meaningful and and purposeful collaborations at work. While there are operational challenges that we see with having these hybrid workforce models, but again, like communication gaps and how do we measure productivity metrics, and how do we maintain that team cohesion and make sure that people are being integrated into our culture. But those can be now addressed very seamlessly through our connectivity platforms that we have. We have regular manager connects, structured check-ins, and basically a more data-oriented and data-driven tracking of performance and outcomes is something which is helping us, especially at HealthEdge. It is basically helping us to foster that these changes, and this is something which is the need of the hour. And the companies who have actually implemented it now, other companies, they're setting a trend for other companies too, to make sure that this is becoming a way of life, and we cannot just ignore it.
Yeah, but Ujala, help me understand this. Is it only the cooler, younger tech companies which are more open to these changes? Or are we seeing conversations like these? And these are difficult conversations. For companies to change culture, it's not easy. It can't be done overnight. MNCs, which have been established on core values, which have gone down generations, right? Are they also now forced to look into it because attrition is a major issue?
Yeah, so the companies, I think all type of companies, be it big or small or mid-sized companies, are taking this approach. See, basically the problem is that the challenge is to avoid over-engineering initiatives and basically balancing how practical we are in our initiatives, and also balancing the employee centricity with it. And that is the reason why companies do a lot of surveys, the employee voice surveys, employee check-ins. There are, stay interviews and all of those initiatives which are run in the organization. And this is not just to run these initiatives or surveys. Basically, what is the data that we get out of this, and then we action on it, is something which is more and more important. And a lot of companies are, like I said, taking this approach to understand what their employees want and how can they tailor and pivot their approaches and basically come up with an overall and very holistic strategy as it relates to combating these attrition challenges. And we have seen a dip in our attrition because it's been a couple of years. We have implemented many initiatives. We are a mid-size health tech organization, and we have implemented a lot of these changes, ranging from mentorship programs to personal development programs and career development initiatives and all of that. So this has really helped us, and we have seen that our attrition is tracking much better as it relates to the India market attrition that we see around us.
I think that's where Jayant's pointers, where you'd asked him earlier, would be super helpful. The things that millennials and Gen Z people are looking for. Jayant, can we come to you? I believe you are in Bangalore. Bangalore is the hub of startups, young tech companies that are figuring their way out, but not just tech companies, startups in general. I want to ask you, Jayant, bring us a pulse check. So tell us a little bit more about what people in your cohort, people your age, are talking about, the initiatives that they've seen from companies around them that they're loving, they're appreciating, and not just companies. I know a lot of individuals quit companies at this age. They decide they want to start their own life, shape their own life, where maybe they're creating their own company. How are younger people thinking through all of this?
Great question. So one thing that I see that works for my company currently is a lot of employee engagement. So this, in terms of events that happen in the company, there's a lot of inclusivity built around all the employees within the company. So that, they say keep your work and your personal life aside, but you do end up making some bonds and some friendships along the way. So that is very important for people to feel inclusive within the organization. And second, organizations that have a very empathetic approach towards their employees, where they customize and tailor some of these perks that we say. It shouldn't be that hard, like hardbound and written in stone that there are only so many days available for you to take a mental health day off. No, I mean, there might be higher cases of burnout. So to be able to have a little bit of flexibility, empathize with your employees for their personal needs and, grievances does go a long way. And the other thing I would say would be, um, now, most companies will have like one North Star or like one goal. It could be in terms of either chasing revenue, or it could be in terms of creating a brand for themselves. So, basis what that is, be very transparent and open to the Gen Zs about what it is that you want to achieve. So, let's say if it is something like, if you're chasing revenue and you know that work-life balance is going to take a hit,
Be
so you
honest about it.
suitably, yeah, be honest about it. Tell them upfront that, yeah, this is what is going to happen, and uh, compensate them in other ways. It could be perks, it could be monetary rewards,
That's
or
useful.
if it's yeah, or if it's the other way where they want to establish a brand and they're taking a step back on revenue, they want to improve their presence, then instead of compensation, you reward them in other ways. You give them other perks. You give them a good work-life balance. Is how you would sort of
Yeah.
maintain that ratio.
Yeah,
So
Jayant and
these
I
are
were actually chatting earlier, and he said something beautiful then. He said that it's not like we don't want to hustle, it's not like we don't want to work, but it has to be worth our while. And I think that's quite a thing to say about it, and he's smiling bright on this. Jayant, we started with you. Let's also give you the last word then on this discussion. To say for companies, for older traditional organizations watching right now who want to decode this Gen Z millennial phenomena. How are you thinking? What are you doing? What do you want? Like, and there's a massive generation gap between leadership of these companies and the generation now. To them, what do you have to say if they are watching?
So to them, I would say, like, I know change is tough. You have been deep rooted in the traditional ways, but staying rigid with your policies, shows a clear lack of empathy towards employees, and trying to craft very tailored solutions like, hey, you will have 5 mental health days, 4 well-being days, and stuff like that. Instead of looking at it as a very uh, you know, process-driven way of setting this up, look at it from a more empathetic lens and have some leeway to customize and look out for your employees is something I would tell the
Noted. Noted. Noted.
Jayant Ujala, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. There's been so much in terms of key takeaways there.
Yeah.
I loved a little earlier when he was saying, just be honest with us. Everyone just wants honesty in that sense.
Just be
Tell us what you
clear.
want up front, and then we'll do the work. Okay, we're going to head into a quick break. On the other side, we are shifting focus slightly. We're taking you into how you can prepare for this winters. What do we mean when we say that? The expert tips you can take to avoid injuries when you keep working out, because we want you to keep healthy. We want you to keep working out in this weather. Whether you're in Kashmir, those are the snow-capped valleys of Kashmir we're showing you, or in Delhi, anywhere in the north, what you can do to stay fit and healthy. Dr. Ejaz Ashai joins us here with the winter exercise guide.